a little map today because I wanted to share what I've experienced as the marshlands of Gobbledygook in relationship. Not because what I've experienced is any better or worse than what any of you have experienced, but because I think the more we bring attention to the places that we get stuck and how to get out of them, both mentally, emotionally, and physically, the better off we all are. And so in that spirit, we have the maze with lots of different pause points, and then a list of questions that I find useful in unsticking the flow, because really what we want is a multidimensional flow. We want heart, mind, body, the spiritual part of mind, the curious educational part of mind, the economic aspect of the body, the health aspect of the body, the pleasure aspects of the body. We want all these different dimensions to synergize with a partner in a way that propels us faster on a journey of growth and spirituality and healing and joy and love and being loved than we could alone. I think that's really what makes relationships worth the extraordinary amount of effort, skill, and work that is necessary to predictably and sustainably create value in one relationship after a next, despite the pitfalls along the way. So pitfall number one, if you really loved me, you would do X, Y, Z that we haven't talked about, that I haven't made a direct request about, and that you haven't agreed to do. And I highlight these three things because, in my opinion, you cannot begin to love someone until you understand what brings them well-being. And that takes direct communication, understanding their goals, understanding their sensitivities and deal breakers, understanding the areas they've been traumatized as part of those sensitivities, knowing their preferences, knowing their value hierarchy. Like, are you someone who, when you have a choice between doing the right thing and doing the exciting thing, that excitement and thrill is really where it's at for you? Or are you someone that, while you may value excitement and thrill, it's being honest and always keeping your agreements, that's where it's really at for you? Because in an abstract sense and in an objective sense, there's no right or wrong in that call, but there is pain. When a person who chooses honor and integrity with their word over thrill does so, but partners with someone who chooses thrill over integrity, there is pain in that relationship. And that pain in an environment, and I want to pause right now and just talk about the biggest problem of all, hedonic adaptation in an evolutionary context in which we are alive today because our genes and our brain amplifies the negative roughly 500% over the positive. Now, this is like betting against Vegas with 20% odds of winning. you roll the die, and half the time it's good, half the time it's bad, but when you lose 5 times. When you win once. And this is the reality of our brain. Our brain is trained over millions of years to look for the threat, focus on it, amplify it, and dwell on it until we feel and find that we've found a safe response. Now, this is why you see relationships that are 95% positive, kind of on the verge of breakup. Why? It's such a little thing. There's all this, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's this. The statistical odds of finding another partner who has all of that and doesn't do this 5% is minuscule. So why does it feel so terrible? Well, they drove the car safely again today and didn't kill you. They didn't chop off any of your fingers. They kept, they told the truth 99% that day. They opened the door. They bought you your favorite food. They made a nice remark. They thought about your future. In the 100 things they did today, 95% of them were either fine, mild, or incredibly generous and amazing. But they made a rude remark in front of your sister, number one. They didn't hold the door open long enough and gave you an impatient look, dreadful. They moved your toothpaste around again. They forgot to get the milk when they went shopping for you, and they didn't pay attention when you started talking and they were busy typing. And this list of insults has been amplified 5 times to be major deals, like you're always doing that with my sister, here I am talking with you, you're typing again. And this just becomes, just fills with possible threats. Maybe he doesn't love me, maybe this, that, the other. And meanwhile, when you're working that hard to do 95% of the things right, and 5%, I can never do anything right, and so this is the feeling. Now, this has nothing to do with you or I as a human being. It has to do with our brain chemistry and survival emphasis. It's a big deal. But if you really knew me, you would take the time to figure out what your partner needs to be happy. You would look honestly at yourself and say, I will do this, I won't do this, I will do this, I won't do this. I'll do this sometimes, but it's not really my thing, but I'll do it for you. And I'll do this thing that isn't on your list, and that's who I am. And is that the best choice available for you? Meaning, is there any man out there that you know of or have a strong probability of meeting that you believe would be a better fit for you? Because if so, I want to support you in being with that guy. But if me being who I honestly am is a step up above growing on your own, or other relationships that you could be spending time with, then by all means, let's get together. But none of this, if you really love me, you will do this. I will tell you what I will and won't do, and I will do it. And so that's kind of there is no, if you really loved me, you would be psychic and you would be someone you're not. So that's just kind of the wake-up call out of that little mire. I was just talking with a woman today that, we were talking about sexual boundaries. I like to have very clear agreements with a partner. For example, my monogamous agreement is there will be no genital contact with the intention to arouse. There will be no French kissing. And that's it. I'm going to cuddle with men and women. I'm going to feel aroused with men and women. If I'm in a hot tub, my genitals may or may not touch another man or a woman. If I'm having a massage, I may or may not be nude. I may or may not be incidentally nude. I'm not going to push it by cuddling nude with someone I'm highly attracted to. That's pushing it a little bit. And if you'd like, I will include breasts within genital. And this is clear. And I was talking with a woman about the fact that, particularly when I'm getting massages in Thailand, it's important for me to go in very clear about what my agreements are, and it's important to tell the masseuse, if you want to kiss me, it's on the cheek, not the lips. Stay 6 inches away from my penis, because sometimes the masseuse, draping their hair over me, flirting, etc., that's not a time to think clearly. You want to set out boundaries up front, which means you need to know what they are. And I have no idea what is going to be considered a betrayal or whatever unless I go through a couple of scenarios with a given partner and we spell it out. And if I'm willing to make that agreement, which I am when a woman puts our relationship first, I'm not going to do it for a weekend relationship. I'm not going to do it for an undefined, uncontained relationship. And I'll be clear about that. But if someone's putting me first and we're spending time every day, and there's not a sexual block in our relationship that we can't work through, and my partner would like monogamy, great. I love it. So that's, but the woman I was talking to whose boyfriend is not honoring her ideal boundaries in the massage scenario, hasn't spelled out what her ideal boundaries, doesn't want to take responsibility for doing so, hasn't asked for an agreement, and yet she's saying, well, if it was real love, I'm sure this. And I said, no. Real love is a feeling. You can really love someone and never have sex with them. You can really love someone and have sex with multiple people. But being loving is taking the time to figure out what does and doesn't work for a given relationship. Making clear agreements that are win-win, or being clear that you cannot make a win-winning agreement and then disengaging. That's real love. So this is just a little kind of detour. Chauvinism is one of the biggest ones, and I don't mean discrimination against women, although there is a lot of that around the world. It's not the biggest form of discrimination. The biggest form of discrimination is against feminine energy. I, as a man, in Western contexts particularly, and in business contexts most of all, lose 30% of my value in direct proportion to the degree that I present and lead with my feminine side. Laughter, spontaneity, warmth, emotion, empathy, compliments, responsiveness. This causes me to lose status, particularly in my contracting world. and I've done tests actually of this, and I'll watch, I'll sometimes play both personas. I'll be the efficient, detached, yes ma'am, yes sir, what would you like, silence, present the, the like, we don't have time for emotion thing, I'm here to be a professional. And people love paying this. I get hundreds of thousands of dollars. And there's confidence in this persona, this detached, professional, hardworking, addicted persona that's serious and unemotional and non-effeminate. Now, as soon as I bring in play, for example, if I play with the children of many of my clients, my social status will go down. Because real contractors wouldn't play with children, would they? So it's huge. So to see your own level of chauvinism, I've prepared a little test because it goes much deeper than a bias against women. And one of the biggest jobs, that I lost was with a big feminist. She was so proud. She spent all, at least 30 minutes telling me all about her feminine daughter and her feminist thing and that. And I paid her this really warm compliment after giving her a great price. And I was in the top 2% of people capable of doing her particular job. It was quite an unusual skill of bluff repair, in erosion control. And it's a very unusual contractor that has any experience with that, and I've done a lot of it. And she canceled the contract. And I asked her why, and she said, I didn't feel good about that compliment. And I told her, yeah, well, it's not normal American professional thing to do. But the truth is, I don't need the money. I don't need the job, and I don't. But it really impressed me the way you and your husband work together. And I think that's more important than any of this other stuff. And so I really wanted to compliment you for that. And it's heartbreaking to me that you as a feminist would punish me for the only expression of femininity in the whole dialogue. Is there no place for feminine energy in our relationship? And her idea of feminism was be a tough motherfucker and beat those bastard men into position in all kinds of legal ways or whatever and prove that women could be on top. And there wasn't any place for her own femininity, so why would there be a place for mine? It's a very, very, very big wound. And it leads to competition. Whenever you create a culture that says if you're focused, driven, goal-oriented, to the point, articulate, externalized, have impact, you're important. And if you're playful and you're happy and you're in the moment and you feel joy, well, you're just kind of not to be taken too seriously. Who doesn't want to be taken seriously? I do. And the only way that I find to combat it systemically is to get out of chauvinistic environments. Well, unfortunately, that means getting out of America. When you're paid 30% more for being masculine, when your social status goes up for being masculine, and when you're looked on with scorn, with suspicion, with question, with derision, with impatience for being feminine, it's such a brainwashing. It's very hard to fight that when it's so pervasive. I get over to Thailand and it's the exact opposite. It's my smile. Something I'm not very good at as an American, but it's my smile that's honored. And when I talk, like this video would be an absolute joke in Thailand. I start talking about a point like this and they start pointing at me, oh, crazy guy. And they start laughing because they know it's absurd to be all tied up in these thoughts when you could be smiling and engaging and sharing food together. And It's just so beautiful. It's a big, big sticking point. Because when you've got two people competing to be the most masculine, no one's going to tell me what to do. Well, I'm not going to do that. And you told me, well, I'm not going to do it. And you got two people competing to be masculine. Two people talking and no one listening. You can't get anywhere. There's no flow. It all grinds to a halt. And that's what it's all about. It's not the outlet. It's not the plug. It's the electricity. And you don't get it without flow. So next on our map, we have unconditional love. Now, if you ever see, as I saw in one introduction to a group, what are your thoughts about unconditional love? Well, I didn't answer that well enough because I said it's a joke. Because here's the thing. If it's technical unconditional love, it doesn't matter who it's directed to. It has no fluctuations in time. It's not, I love you when I'm in a good mood. That's not unconditional love. That's conditional of being in a good mood. It's, I love you because you're you. Well, that's not unconditional, because if I then change or you see a different side of me, now you may not, because I'm not who you thought I was. And you love me because I do this, 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 and this, and I don't do this, 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 and this. Which means as soon as I start doing this thing you don't like, suddenly your love goes down. Human love is not unconditional. If you love everything and every person identically equally, all of the time, without any variables, that is unconditional love. And it has nothing to do with our day-to-day sense of attraction and common this and that. That's fat people, skinny people, lizards, It's not, I love you because you're not a lizard. That's pretty conditional. There's a lot of lizards out there, So wake up around the unconditional love. It feels great, but it is a setup. And you can puncture that one very easy. You just say, well, would you love me if I killed your mother? Okay, well, that's a condition. I mean, let's just call this, you're feeling a lot of expansive love for me in this moment. And in another moment, who knows? Your period may start, whatever. And suddenly all that timeless unconditional love is vanished. Blind trust and trust in evolution without investigation. So I don't know about you, but I've had a couple of people on a first date. They talk with me for a little bit. They like me. They understand that I'm a sincere person. And they say, Dane, I trust you. I trust you. And I say, trust me to do what? Give me an example of what you're trusting. And they say, no, I just trust you. I can tell you're a good guy. I trust you. So sometimes I'll make it a little bit easier for them. I'll say, well, for example, would you trust me to cuddle you all night if you're feeling lonely or whatever? Oh, yes, absolutely. You try and do something, and I say, well, the truth is I've got a sensitive body. I can't sleep if I'm touching someone. So that's actually something I want to educate you about and make sure it's a good fit, because sleep's a pretty big deal. We do it a third of the time. We should be compatible in our sleep needs and habits. And here's me on sleep. And it's not because I'm a bad person. It's because I have a sensitive body. So that would be a misplaced assumption. Now, if that's wrong and you're trusting me about all kinds of things we haven't talked about, you can see the problem here. It's a setup. I don't want you to trust me at all unless A, you've checked it out explicitly, and B, I've made an agreement, because I have never lied to a partner, and most people say that I know myself very well. So odds are high that if I tell you I will do this, I will do it. Odds are very low that if you trust me to do something without telling me what it is and securing my agreement, the odds are about 50-50 that I'm going to do that. And there are good reasons for doing things in a variety of different ways in different circumstances. And I want to get to know you. I don't want this blind trust. Now, the other thing that's interesting around this is, with women being attracted and wanting to be sexual and stuff like that, is we are drawn, statistics show that people are drawn to other people that participate in replaying traumas and wounds. And more than 60% of people, minimal in different studies, have unresolved trauma. It's a big deal. Now, what's very common, I meet a woman, I ask her, what didn't you like about your last relationship? And they say, well, he's not at all like you. He did this, he did this, he did this. And I'm looking for what I do or have done that's similar or could be perceived in that way. Because I don't think that unconsciously leaving a relationship, unconsciously being drawn to a new partner, and unconsciously forming a new relationship has high statistical odds of being this miraculous breakthrough in transcendence and new age fluff that it is often presented to be. I'm turning over a new leaf. That's so easy to say. It means absolutely nothing if you don't do things different in the new relationship than you did in the last. So I'll ask her to describe what she didn't like. Now, if she's in heavy denial mode, she may say, I've moved beyond that now. I don't even want to think about him. And I'm thinking, well, that means if it's that bad, we definitely better look at what it is. Because if you're so upset with what happened in that last relationship, you don't even want to talk about it, well, then you certainly owe it to yourself not to choose me if I'm going to do exactly what it is you're so upset your last partner did. And so, the woman may say, oh, well, he was so controlling, oh gosh, this and that and the other. Okay, wait a minute. A number of girlfriends have said that I'm quite controlling. Just thought you ought to know that. And if you'd like, I'll tell you where I'm controlling, why, how I am controlling, what's driving it for me, how that's been for other partners, because I've asked them, what's it like to be around this side? And I can tell you all about it. And you can enter a relationship with a controlling new partner, and you can do it consciously, with something you've never done. And you can explore why you're drawn to me. Because there's positives and negatives around this control. And we can look at why you've picked someone you say you don't want to pick. How about that? Well, most of them, they don't want it. They wanted to enter the pattern again unconsciously and in denial. Well, that's no fun. That's boring. They've already done that tons of times. So I'd say, well, either we need to come up with a new paradigm for exploring how we're going to handle this different, because although you've apparently been with tons of men you feel controlled by, and you've just picked someone that several women have told me they felt controlled by. And let's look at how that plays out and why and what's that about, and you know, because you haven't talked about your childhood and you know what was about your father and this and that. It's like, no, I don't want to deal with that. I just want to transcend that pattern. Well, see, here's the problem. The next man isn't going to pause you at this point. And you've just told me that your last few partners were like this, and you've just picked me, and you told me you're really interested, and I'm the one slowing you down. You're not slowing yourself down, which tells me you don't yet know what you're doing. And if you think the next man, because you're an attractive woman, of course I want to have an orgasm with you. But this is more important to me. And if you think statistically that the next man is going to pause you when he's got a good shot at connecting with you sexually and tell you the bad news up front, you're out to lunch. But here's a chance we could look at the pattern and break it down, and I can even show you how you play into that. Because I'm not controlling for no reason. There are certain things that trigger that habit in me, that protect certain vulnerable feelings that don't get protected by most people without that habit, without that protection. And I can actually teach you to be so sensitive in those areas that I can have the great joy of letting go of all control, can save the energy and a nuisance of having to manage things, and feel a beautiful surrender in the care of someone that knows how to honor these parts of me. But statistically speaking, that skill is not going to come easily for you. And it may be easier just to complain about controlling men. So, up to you. If you love someone, set them free. This is another common thing, like, I just want to be free, I just want to be free. See, here's the reality. The psyche is like a bicycle wheel. And on every spoke, there's a persona. There's a totally carefree persona. And there's a totally possessed and possessive, needy, desperate persona. There is a generous persona. There's a greedy persona. There is a giving, happy, feminine persona. There's a calculating, focused man. There is the whole probability field of the self is in there. Now, what determines the presenting persona is the contextual environment, is the microculture that we co-create with one another. Now, I point this out because I've dated polyamorous women who say, oh, I'm totally fine, sex is this, that, and the other. But what they're telling me is that the men where they felt totally fine with him fucking around were men that did not engage the persona in them that is insecure, desperate, needy, young, vulnerable, attached. So if the relationship doesn't bring that persona to the forefront, fuck around, free love, the more the merrier. However, I tend to touch people in core areas. And so the same women that said, you're going to find that I'm such an easy woman, because of the ways that I've talked about their deepest wounds, because of the ways that I've invited them to cry in my arms, the deeper personas have felt safe to surface. And now they don't want me out of their sight, let alone having sex with someone else. See, and this is key to understand. You are not needy or independent. You are all of it. The key is which you is sincerely evoked in a given relationship. Now, you may think the fun-loving, detached, sexy, sleep-around persona is far more interesting. And if all you're interested in is physical sensation, they may be. But there is a price to that. All the goodies, all the passion, all the loyalty of a certain persona that would die and take you through cancer to your grave with complete clarity that you are the only person they want to be with. That persona, which is in every single human being, will not tolerate or show up for a relationship in which the partner wants to fuck around. They're not interested in that. That doesn't earn that persona. And so there's a price to every single thing. Light, shadow, price, benefit. So you need to know what the price is. You need to be sincere that if you've chosen surfacey people your whole life, if you choose a deep person, you will get to know a side of yourself you haven't seen before. If you're a deep person and you choose shallow people, if you're an American and you choose Thai, if you're Thai and you choose American, you will see new sides of yourself. So there's really no such thing as a free love or a no baggage. This is part of the other thing. I don't have any baggage. I want a partner without baggage. Easy. Just have light, dissociative, semi-honest, distant relationships. And there will be no baggage because there's nothing to get worked up about. However, if you lay the deepest state of helplessness in an overwhelming grief, in a moment of collapse, as you lose your job, as your mother dies, as your sister is raped, if you lay that on a partner and they say, sorry, I've got to watch the next TV program, it's not going to be funny. What the fuck, your TV program? Show up for me here. Hey, you've got baggage I thought we didn't have. Yeah, so if you have no substance, you want to play sociopathic and cool and coy and all that, fine. It's easy, just stay on the surface, stay distant, don't be honest. But every single person, if you go into those emotional depths, is going to care about how you treat their feelings. They're going to have ideas of what good treatment and bad treatment is. And if you haven't bothered to take the time to learn what good treatment of their feelings are, and they erupt into one of those crises, which is part of life, I hate to break it to you, they are going to be upset. Very, very upset. And it may cost you the relationship. The joke is on anyone who thinks that there really are these separate group of people who have no baggage. So that's that little bit of marsh. Similarly, if you love someone, if you really love me, you'll set them free. Yes and no. My last girlfriend, loved her immensely. I really wanted and needed to talk. I was going through some trauma at the time. She wasn't interested. I loved her enough to set her free. I said, look, I really need someone who, when trauma or deep emotions are present, knows that that's where the gold is and wants to show up for that. I get that you don't want to. That's okay. Most of the relationships out there won't take you quickly into this terrain. So you can find plenty of other people who are in your comfort zone. Good luck with that. I set you free. What it doesn't mean is I need this, this, and this. I like this, this, and this. You don't do any of that. And I'm going to say, fine, just do whatever you want. And I will love you anyway. It's more of a, we have to love ourselves and honor our own needs and preferences first. Then we can let other people into our life that choose to behave in a way that's really healthy for us, that brings a smile, that makes us happy. And then, if they're not that way, we can love them enough not to hang on to them and control them, but to let them go and find other people that they can be in a happy relationship with. And I would say one of the biggest hurdles that comes up in Western relationships, where, in the 10,000 cultures that are part of recorded history, not many of them obsessed about work and commuting to the extent that we do. We're pretty unique in these 40 to 80 hour weeks plus drive time plus all this obsession around money, making money and spending money and all that. I mean, it wasn't a big deal in Amazon tribes. It certainly, when we were up in the monkey business 100,000 years ago, it certainly wasn't a big deal. You didn't have to pay rent and all that. So it's a lot of complexity that we've introduced into our lifestyles and into our brains. And we have this magical fairy tale of, they just fell in love and lived happily ever after, and it just worked because that was real love. But the reality is that we are more complicated than a jet plane. Pilots spend 4 years to learn to fly. Planes don't have feelings. Planes don't have cultures. Planes don't have periods or times of month. Planes are easy. They do what they're told. They don't rebel. Nobody's going to tell me to turn the wing left at this point. I'm going to do whatever I want. Crash. I mean, they don't do that. Planes are simple, but we still train 4 years for them. And we have high safety statistics. Relationships crash all the time. No one would fly if the plane safety record was the same as the relationship safety record. And relationships, like planes, crash at takeoff and landing. Landing is the hardest point. It's hard to land a relationship well with everyone still intact. And every relationship needs to end. Even if it's death, it needs and will end. The question is, will it end gracefully, delivering its cargo, taking you to a new dimension? Or will it end in a spiral of confusion, self-blame, shame, stuff that just tears you to pieces? Leaves you so raw you don't want to get into the next one, or want one of those low maintenance, no baggage relationships where we pretend we're in love from halfway across the town and sending an odd text. I mean, it tears us to pieces. And this is not an excuse to be out of relationship. This is an opportunity to learn. And so there's a lot that we can learn about relationships, and we are all typically emotionally illiterate. If you go to tribal cultures, they'll spend a third of their time processing present emotional states and feelings and rituals. We don't do that. We're not civilized. We're not emotionally literate. Now, we, in our chauvinism, of course, think that doesn't matter. Bring out our iPad, it doesn't matter. if you feel like shit, the technology is worthless. If you feel like shit, there's no point in having a body. Just the body that holds the consciousness that feels like shit. It takes work. We are a third emotion, we are a third mind, we are a third body. And it's weird cultural anomalies that try to focus us on one area or another, educate our minds but not our hearts. You know, it's very bizarre, and it's not doing us any favors. Loneliness, suicide, depression. These are our statistics, and these are not the people. This is what the culture produces. Now, this brings me to another kind of crazy blind spot that's particularly rich for Americans. No one's going to tell me what to do, is the archetypal American stance. I'm my own person. I'm independent. I'm amazing, and no one is going to run my life. I'm going to be free. I'm going to do this and do that and the other. Now, you could spot an American anywhere around the world. Well, that tells you how free you are. How is it that 300 million people that just happen to be born into America all talk and think the same thing as if that's them? Maybe it's not any more you than someone who's born in Thailand or someone who's born in an Amazon tribe. Maybe it's time to look at the brainwashing that is every single cult. The root word for culture. Cult. The brainwashing that in order to meet our needs to belong, we've all got to be like this. We've all got to take this shape. We've all got to wear bowler hats. I've got a bowler hat, you've got... I mean, who comes up with this stuff? The cult. We got to do it. How are you? Nice to meet you, sir. Firm handshake. Who comes up with this bullshit? Why not jump and laugh? Well, we can't have that. We're chauvinists. But who comes up with this bullshit? It's not you. But you're trapped as long as you think the location you happened to be born is really you. You're no more free than the Muslim with their, their headdress and all that to say, no, I really want to wear this. Who wants to wear hot cloth in the sun? That wasn't a free choice. Yes, I do. It's my free choice. It's my free choice to have indiscriminate sex. It's my free choice to work 80 hours a week and build the economy. It's my free choice to be president of the United States. Who would want that job? It is a nightmare. Who wants to stand up and be criticized and have very little power and work 18-hour days? I mean, that's the thing to do. Who says? It's brainwashing, which is why you have to make a very important choice. And I think it's the most important choice I'm going to bring to you in this video. Do you want to be happy? Or do you want to be normal? Because if you want to be normal more than you want to be joyful, happy, spontaneous, just take the statistics of well-being and happiness in your culture. How vital are the bodies in your culture? That's the normal level of vitality. How joyful and innocent is your culture? That's the normal level of joy and innocence in your culture. And if you want to pick being like that over being twice as joyful or twice as playful or working 10-hour weeks and fishing on the beach in one of the 7,000 Philippine islands or, whoever, wherever the ways you can write your life. The interesting thing about a sophisticated culture is a good deal of well-being is reduced to good sleep, good sex, and good food. The monkeys had that in spades. No taxes, no rent, no budgeting, no keeping up with their Facebook pages, none of this bullshit. No charging their battery, no, oh, I've lost it. None of that. They just jumped around in trees, ate bananas, slept, had sex when they wanted to. That was it. That's all they did. And you can tell how sophisticated a culture is by how much tedium, delay, and indirect paths a given person takes to those things. Well, I just don't have sex with people. No, first they have to be like this, then they have to be like this. Every single one of those musts and stuff is a barrier between one of these needs. I can't just eat this, that's not organic, that's not this, and I don't like cream cheese, and I don't want this, and I don't want that, and I only do this, and I have to prepare my special thing with this, and I have to have that. Okay, so you have to do all that. The monkey just had to peel the banana. You know, it's like, who's the smart one? So this is a little bit of the thing that can get in our way. And don't for a moment think that the place that you happen to be born is the place that you will be the happiest or that anyone else will be the happiest. I'm in Thailand right now. I'm 3 times happier when I'm in Thailand. 3 times. I have been 3 times happier in Thailand since the very first day I arrived 8 years ago. I'm spending 6 months a year here. I'm looking at moving full time. Everyone I ask foreigners, are you happier in Thailand than you were in Germany? Are you happier in Thailand than when you were in the United States? Are you happy? And the answer is yes. 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 And I say, how much? The average is 20 times. Some people say 100 times. Some people say 3 times. That's a lot of happiness for just getting on a plane. Well, this is an important part. The relationship I'm in right now with a Filipino woman in Thailand. I have no idea how to create the well-being we're creating in the United States. Now I'll be able to, we're looking at some immigration and stuff like that, so we'll see. Maybe the same relationship chemistry can work in that environment. Or maybe the sociopathic coldness of American culture will crush the joy and innocence we feel here. And we'll start to wither as a couple, in which case we will revive the relationship by coming back into an environment that waters it. Environment matters a lot. And if you're a gardener and you've ever shouted at a rose and said, grow, you miserable so-and-so, if you don't do this, I'm not going to give you any water. Now, a rose grows and is its beautiful self naturally. You just need to give it an environment. In the case of a rose, full sun, water, organic nitrogen. You just need to give it the environment in which it can be itself. And the environment in which you can be yourself, not the cultural brainwashed image, may not be where you are. It wasn't for me. And you don't know what you don't know until you get on a plane, fly halfway around the world, and discover. So that's just a little bit of a blind spot. But back to discounted relationships, because that's really the sticking point. We like a deal in America. We like stuff on sale. We're looking for the 50 to 70% off relationship. It's not going to happen. Because it will happen, meaning you're going to give your relationship 20% of what it needs to be magnificent. Because you're shrewd, you're not going to throw your heart away and all that. No. So you're going to give your relationship 20% of what it needs to be amazing. and it's not going to be amazing. It's going to be 20% of amazing. And you're going to complain. It's like, I wanted something amazing, for my 20%. Well, it doesn't happen unless you show up, number one, and you choose someone who's willing to show up with you. It's the only way you get an amazing relationship. It's that simple. You want it on sale? You get a mediocre product. And then you've got that brain of yours that's going to magnify all the negatives by 500% and gripe that you've been cheated. Where's your entitlement for the full amazement at your 80% discount? I mean, why can't other people be like Target? And it's not going to work. So it doesn't work. I'm spending 10 hours a day with my partner, and it's growing at 10 hours a day. 10 hours a day alone, together, with a few adventures. And then we have our private stuff and all that. But we stay in sync and we stay fluid around that. She's created a job that allows her to be present with me and in different directions, in different locations. I've created a job that allows us to do that. We're in beautiful environments. We have everything on our side, the best country and all that. It doesn't mean there aren't challenges. But we see one another. We spend at least an hour a day opening up the day, reading each other's diaries. What did you mean by this? Why did you feel this? Ah, I see. So if I did that, you'd feel twice as happy in this context. I see. Well, let's make an agreement about this. Let's try this tomorrow. This is what we do every day. And it is an amazing relationship. I don't know how to create this with someone working a 60-hour week. Who said an amazing relationship was supposed to fit into a modern life? Who piped up that lie? If you can pull it off, if it's working great for you, fine. But who said you were entitled to veer wildly away from what's happened in any other culture and tribal sense, do all this weird stuff and extracurricular activities, and just give a few hours a week of solid building love to your relationship and have it be amazing? Who said that? I've never seen it work for me. 4 hours a day is the minimum in my experience. And it's fun to spend lots of time with a committed partner. So let's review. There's a couple of there's two more points I'm going to cover, and then we'll do a quick review. So hurt is weakness, and emotion is weakness. Goes back to chauvinism. Hurt, fear, whatever, like every other emotion, is a symptom of something that's not quite right, that needs attention. That's all it is. And if you give it the attention and understanding, it releases and goes back into joy and flow. If you don't, it builds up and gets worse. And if you suppress it, you have to ultimately become sociopathic and dissociate from yourself, and then you go numb. Hurt is not weakness. It is a clue. Love is not weakness. Need is not weakness. Every emotion is like a detector reflecting the relationship back on the dimension of emotions, and it is a guide. And one of the greatest arenas to follow the map of emotions is to go into deep innocence and find the youngest part in the couple, the 1-year-old, the 2-year-old, the part that is most innocent or most needy, the part that is most traumatized, and weave a web of patience and love and understanding around that persona. And watch it transform the relationship, the energy, and the individual. It will transform. If you call it weak, it will disappear and hide, and it will not transform. Up to you. Finally, who said toasters. You know, you go down to Home Depot, whatever, you buy a $30 toaster. It does one thing. You push the button down, it gets hot, makes toast, and pops up. The thing comes with a 20-page user's manual. Push this button to pop down the toast. Slice your toast to this thickness. Plug the plug into an outlet that looks like this. Plug it into an outlet at this voltage. Clean the toaster. I mean, the thing is, if manufacturers didn't need a toaster's user's manual, a manual for the toaster, they wouldn't put it in. No manufacturer wastes money unnecessarily printing off gibberish. They do the manual because someone tried to plug an American toaster into a British outlet and blew up the toaster, and they were outraged at the manufacturer for not telling them. That's why that's in the manual. See, the thing is, people are a lot more complicated than toasters. And the thing is, there's going to be someone who takes you as an American, tries to plug you into Chinese culture, and is outraged that you behave like an American because you didn't give them a manual. And here's why I'm big on user's manuals for human beings. There's a lot to cover. What are your allergies? What are your sleep patterns? What are your core beliefs? What are your value hierarchies? What's your astrological sign, for people that ask that over and over again? What are your optimal sexual personas? What are your goals in life? What are the patterns you want to create in your next relationship? What are the patterns you can't stand and want to stay away from? What does a good friend look like? What were some of your childhood experiences? What are some of your trauma points? What brings out the worst in you? What does complete and total love look like to you? Interesting reading. Very relevant reading if you're trying to find the one and effectively invest your energy so that they feel like they're the one, as opposed to you're the one. No, I'm not. That doesn't feel good to me at all. You're the one. Yeah, I'm willing to be the one because this feels great. You're the one person who took the time to understand me. And so I'll be the one. Now, this is great because, as Zig Ziglar, one of the greatest salesmen of all time, if you're an old timer, used to say, you can create anything you want in the world if you just help enough people create what they want. You know, and that's mostly talking about financial sense. If you help people, you'll make a lot of money. And then you can do whatever you want, you know, with that money and stuff. And it's true in relationship. If you have the art of giving bliss, of giving joy, of giving presence, of being seen, of being known, of knowing, of honoring, you give that gift in a way that many people have never experienced. There's a strong motivation for them to work hard, to do the things that make you feel amazingly loved, cared about, respected, etc. And there needs to be a reciprocity in that. You or your partner will burn out if one person's doing all the giving and one person's doing all the taking, and there is not an equal sense of value in the relationship. Love cannot be bought. But the sustainable health and body and stuff like that creates an environment conducive for love can be bought and can be negotiated. You know, for a sensitive, it may be as simple as, I absolutely need 8 hours of sleep. Otherwise, you are not going to have the man of your dreams. Sorry. And no, I can't do you a favor and listen to heavy music by the neighbor next door, a heavy metal all night from the neighbor next door. So I can't do you the favor of feeling great the next day. It's a boundary. I have to respect it in myself. If you honor it, you'll have an amazingly present being. If you don't, you have someone who's tired, irritable, and wants to get away from you. It's up to you. So this is the map, and it ends up closer to sustainable win-win love. As you get stuck along the way, there's a couple of principles and questions. It all comes down to value. If you are feeling not interested in the relationship, not committed to the relationship because it's not bringing you a lot of value, then the conversation to steer towards is, I'm not satisfied in this relationship because of this, 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 and this. This is what I need to be highly excited about showing up for you. From your perspective, would it be better to end so that you can find someone who likes relating in the way you like, and I can do the same? Or would you like to change so that I want to stay in this relationship? Because I'm not going to stay in this relationship if I'm very clear that I'm more miserable in it than I would be alone, let alone with a great partner. So that's the direction to steer things towards. Now, if someone doesn't get that, that's not your problem. End graciously and kindly. I'd like to start an ending process. I like to have clear agreements and go through a ritual of honoring. But you have no chance of transformation if someone doesn't even get that principle. And someone is not being kind to you or loving you if they want you to stay in a relationship that makes you miserable because they're getting some good payoffs from it. That's not love, that's self-absorption. By contrast, if you are getting a lot of value in a relationship and your partner is ambivalent, they're not that keen to see you the next time, they're not that keen to get married, they're just not. Your job is to steer the conversation with what makes them come alive, what makes them feel completely and totally loved and in love with you. Number one. Number two, can you do it? 3, do you want to and are you willing to? Number 4, do it. Or set them free by saying, I can see. You do everything for me. I'm attracted to you. I'm happier around you. It's great. It's so easy to relate to you. You don't have that feeling around me. And I understand it. I mean, if you want to talk about the details, fine, but I see what you need, and I don't find myself capable of doing that. But you deserve to be happy. And I don't want to feel like I'm the one holding you back. So why don't we have a good closing? And thank you so much for giving me all this wonderful stuff. And we both can find people where, with the goal of that peak. There's no one perfect, of course. These two things will unstick if the care for the other and the care for oneself transcends the attachment we're going to die together, miserable, doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. If the care for ourselves and the care for one another transcends the attachment by even a few percentage, there will be the courage and the strength to let go of an inappropriate relationship when it's ready to let go of it, so that both can find a better match. This will free up energy. And there's also a couple of things, little questions. So one is, what are 3 things I could do to make you feel totally and completely loved right now? Now, if you're asking that and your partner doesn't know, don't take ambivalence for an answer, as fine. I mean, this is a core question. I mean, you have Trivia Pursuit questions, and people can spit out garbage from the 1950s that is never going to have a single iota of redeeming value, period. So the idea that somehow who's the movie player and Gone with the Wind and not, but is oh, I've got that. But what makes you feel completely and totally loved? I never thought about that. That's not important. That is a joke on everyone. Do some work there. Find out. And then do something about it. Do all the things on that list. Bring the love up. What behaviors do you need to change? Do you need me to change to double the value in this relationship? If I was like this and like this, that your excitement about seeing me would double, what would those be? I'm not promising to be that person. I just want to know. And maybe there's ways I can move closer to that. Maybe I can do all of it. Great. What is your fantasy script if this was to go perfectly? Don't just look there disappointed and with your silent script, counting every little nuance that I'm doing wrong, which we know you're doing. The spoon was. Tell me your script. In my script, I'm the voluptuous woman. I come out and you immediately drop everything and say how wonderful I am. Then you do this, then you do this. Let's hear the script. And then let's look at the script. Is there any balance or reciprocity in it? Are you just a completely self-absorbed person that has no regard for anyone else in your script, and you're upset because there's actually someone else to care for? Well, we can look at that. Or is it an amazing script? I'd love to play it. And thank heavens you've taken the responsible step to spell it out. Again, a new skill for many people, but it isn't. People are lasering, particularly Americans. The critic is gangbusters. They didn't do that right. Well, that means there's a right way to do it. What is it? Spell it out. It's not rude to spell out the script. What's rude is to have 100 million completely different standards with no agreement as to what is the one, hold your standard in a black hole, refuse to let it out and see the light of day, heaven help us, and no, whatever you want to do is fine, no, you did it wrong there, so no, it's all fine, you did it wrong there too. Let it have the light of day, give someone the chance to play the role. I mean, how would you think Audrey Hepburn would feel if the director said, do it, baby. Do what? Do it. What? Do it. You didn't do that. He looks at the script. You didn't say, I don't have the script. No, just be natural. Be yourself. Do it. No. You didn't say that. What? You didn't say the word right here. Could I have the script? No. I don't want to trouble you with the script. Give the fucking script to your partner. Give them a chance. There's no way in hell they're going to stumble in to your psychic fantasy of perfection. Not going to happen. Give them the script. We can have a debate about it. I'll play this line. That's not really me. I can't say that honestly. I'll do this one. How about I add this in? Would you like that? That's more me. I mean, you can negotiate the script. But bring it into the open. What I need you to do right now for me to feel good about us is tell them. Don't just secretly plan revenge and, God, I can't wait for this holiday to be over. I am never going to see them again. Don't just invest in that. Say, pause. I'm busy planning my ending right now. I'm so upset. Should we just end, or do you want to hear what I need to actually feel like being here? This is what I need. Do you want to hear it? Do you want to do anything about it? And I don't need your criticism about my needs. I want to know if you're willing to meet them. Otherwise, c'est la vie. So this is a powerful change point to go from martyrhood into ownership. A very good question. Do you believe we would be happier if we ended? If you're stuck with someone and they're pouting, what's wrong? Nothing. And this is going on beyond your comfort and tolerance level. Would you be happier if we ended? I don't want to see you pout. I don't imagine you're enjoying it. Would you be happier? Yes or no? Done. This usually, no, I don't want you to. Okay. Well, why do you want me to stay in this relationship when you won't talk to me? What are you holding out for? Are you waiting for me to say some magical thing I don't know what it is? Do you have a script that the perfect man suddenly makes it all right in 3 days after sulking adequately? What is it? Because I can do it right now if you tell me. Well, maybe there's a burst of tears and it starts flowing again. Beautiful, beautiful. Moving. That's what we need. Move. Give more. If you're bored, if your partner's bored, give more. That will create flow. That will create dimension and dynamism. Give more. Thanks for watching.